Hey there. Today we're doing a little different kind of video. I was in Australia recently to see my family, and I stumbled across these markers. These ones. Kmart is selling alcohol markers for illustration. These are a 36 color set, and they were about $12. So I thought it would be a lot of fun to compare them to some industry standard professional level markers, like my Copics. We're going to test out how the ink works, and then we'll try to draw something with them and see how they look compared to Copics. And then we'll see if they're worth the money. So let's get into it. Okay, top-down view. So I'm doing the swatches on a blank page in an old sketchbook. I've got the bleed shield under the paper so it doesn't bleed through and spread around. So these markers only have numbers and no letters. I start the swatch with labeling. Need to know what the colors are called, right? Swatches are super important because a lot of the time the ink color doesn't match the color on the lid of the marker, and you'll kind of see that soon. When swatching, you do like a 3-stroke method usually. Basically, each time you go over the same spot with the marker, it should get darker. So we do one full length stroke, then a second half length, and then a third half of that half. And you can kind of see the gradients forming. So what I'm noticing is the ink is very bright, very saturated. This is good and bad. It's bad because even the light pale colors that should come off as more pastel are also very bright, like the first yellow. But it can also be good because bright bold colors are great for illustrations. With the swatches completed, we compare them to my Copic swatches to see how they make a gradient, and to compare the color saturation. So with the Copics, there is a far wider variety of color, so they can have those lighter pastel washed out colors, and also the super bright saturated colors. Also, the Copics seem to have a smoother gradient. Doing multiple strokes leaves a clear difference between 1 and 3, but on the budget markers, the difference isn't too great. Next, we're going to see how they blend. Using colors that should blend together pretty seamlessly, these markers look like they blend really nicely together, not leaving much of a line or a streak. With the blue circle, I'm using a marker called Colorless Blender. This is not actually a blender, it's more like a color pusher. It's basically the alcohol ink, but with zero pigment, so it pushes the other color out. You can use this to fix small mistakes and to lighten certain areas like I'm doing with the blue here. And now it's time to put these markers to the test. I love to draw Pokemon. It's just so much fun for me. Today, I'll test out these markers with a very quick drawing of Chimchar. I know these markers don't have the brush tip, so it's going to be harder to make those nice smooth featherly strokes. And the color choice with these markers. I'll do one side with the budget markers and then the other side with the Copics. The budget option definitely is missing some key colors like light browns and cream colors. So I have to improvise a little bit using yellow instead. Then coming in with the Colorless Blender to lighten up some areas. You can see it looks a little rough, even though I only spent like 20 to 30 minutes on the drawing. Being forced to use the chisel tip and the fine tip, it's harder to make it smooth. But the colors are bold and bright. Next, going in with the Copics for the other side. I have more colors, so I can get the better color matchups for this Pokemon. With some light cream colors for the fur, also have the lighter pale colors helps with highlights. With the Copics, I can take more advantage of color using cream for the highlights, browns for the shadows, and oranges for the mid-range, leaving him with a more natural feeling. The brush markers also help with the shape of the fur. I almost always use the brush tip. I never use the chisel tip. If I had a choice, I would choose a marker with a brush tip and a fine tip. So this is the finished version. The wider color range and the brush tips really make all the difference. I spent about 20 minutes on each of them to keep it mostly fair. Alright, we're finished. So what did you think of the results? I think for the price, around $12, not too bad. The lack of brush tip does make them a little bit worse. I think you can probably get better alcohol markers for maybe like a little bit more money. Ohu markers specifically are much better. And they come with brush tip. Those come with a small fine tip. So I think there are better options, but these are not too bad. Thanks for watching. See ya.